Hey there Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. Okay, so in today's video we are going to be taking a look at the differences between the Cancer Sun, the Cancer Moon and the Cancer Rising, so stay tuned. Now this series is an updated version of a series that I made back in 2017, so about 4 years ago on the channel. So I would like to hope with this version that I'm able to provide some new and interesting pieces of information. Now, I do recommend that you watch this entire video, even if you're here for your sun or your moon or your rising. Just watch the whole thing because things can interlink, and also keep in mind that things can change depending on your sun, moon and rising combinations. Though with that being said, also feel free to add your own thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below, because you know what, I do really appreciate your feedback. Now, another thing just to mention before we do dive into this, certainly make sure that you give this video a like if you do like it. Also make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and to of course click that little bell icon so that you can keep yourself updated with further content from myself. And one more quick thing to mention, and that is that I have some merchandise pieces there available, so go to the links in the description box below if you are interested. Okay, so with all of those introductions out of the way, let's do this. Okay, so just to give a brief overview of the sun, moon and rising, these three placements are often referred to as your big three within the astrological community, and many people do like to mention them as a way to express their very basic personality. Naturally, however, as most of us know here, astrology goes much deeper than these three components, but I still think it's good to learn about these three placements, especially if you are a beginner. But even if you're more advanced, I still recommend watching, because who knows, maybe you will learn something new. Right, so to begin, let's start off by looking at the sun in Cancer. So what I'm going to do is show you some keywords associated with the sun in astrology. Read those keywords, take them in. But what does it mean if these keywords are being combined with the sign or with the archetype of Cancer? Well, it creates an energy of a protective, caring and nurturing self-expression, along with an energy of purposeful security and comfort and warmth. Likewise, it creates an energy of individuality and identity based on family and home and belonging and instinct, as well as an energy of conscious insight and introspection. And the last thing I want to mention is that it creates an energy of seeking attention and applause for expressing one's compassion and kindness. Though what does this specifically say about you if you were born under this sign, meaning that you have the sun in Cancer natally? Well, it suggests that you are intrinsically aware of your personal needs along with the needs of others. And so you might express yourself in a way that says, let me help you, or let me support you. And so in this respect, you are a caregiver, you are a nurturer, and you act as a motherly influence within other people's lives. However, the thing about this is that you may not be the best at verbalizing or expressing your own needs towards others. Sure, you might be conscious of your needs, but when it comes to sharing these things externally, I think you find it pretty difficult, or maybe you just simply choose not to. Why, you may ask? Well, it could be for a number of different reasons, but I think one possible reason is because you've grown up as the dependable person, as the person that other people can rely on day or night, rain or shine. as the person who is here to support and be receptive to those around you. And it's these things that started most likely within the home, amongst your family members. So for example, maybe you grew up with a sick or poorly parent, or maybe a parent was absent from your life, or maybe your family treated you like the emotional healer, or maybe you have a grandparent who calls on you to attend to their needs, or quite possibly, families seem to be at the heart of the matter within any given situation. Therefore, you potentially grew up with this awareness that being supportive is crucial, that being attentive to those around you is what makes you stand out and be seen. Likewise, you might have grown up with an awareness that things like family and heritage and culture are really important. And so you might radiate your ego in such a way that it aligns with that central home domain. So you might read up on your family tree, or you might look into your family history or into your home country's history, for example. And in addition, you might sit down with your grandfather as he tells you his stories of fighting in the war, or you might listen to your grandmother as she tells you for the 1 billionth time about her antiques and her jewels. You get the gist. And this actually reminds me of my Cancer boyfriend. And there was a time when we went to visit the museum on a date a good while ago now. And he was really taking his time as he read about Northern Irish history. And at first, I wasn't so interested. I'm not really big into history. But after him talking to me about it all, I gained a completely different perspective, which my Aquarius mind appreciated very, very much. So then we went home and we watched loads of YouTube videos about different wars throughout history, and we just really dived into history overall, and I became very, very curious about it all, and I have a completely different view of the past. And so this memory, it makes me wonder, are Cancerians, especially you Cancer suns, are you proud of your country? Are you proud of your heritage and your background? Do you aim to take pride in your roots? And are you protective of your homeland and your hometown, or of your ancestry and of the people that you bring into your family circle? You know, so looking at the family that you go on to create. However, and this is a big however, this is not to say that all you Cancer suns, that you look back on the past with celebration and appreciation and fondness, nor is this to suggest that all you Cancer suns never have difficult experiences or have had difficult experiences with family members and loved ones. You most likely have had your fair share of your family struggles and of uneasy memories that rid you with distress and regret. Take a Cancer sun individual who has been mistreated by a family member, for example, or even by their partner. They might harbor feelings towards that person who hurt them for a long time. Or take a Cancer sun individual who has experienced a pretty unstable and chaotic past or upbringing. They might desperately strive for security and for belonging, whilst feeling pulled back by their emotional triggers that just throw them off course from time to time. Which, following on from this point, a Cancer sun individual never forgets. And so they remember how you make them feel. So if their ego is stroked with affirmation and acceptance and love, for example, then more likely than not, they will feel really good about themselves and they'll appreciate you for contributing to those feelings of aliveness and joy and happiness. But on the other hand, if their ego is bruised and it's hurt, such as you rejecting their care or their loyalty, or you withholding affection and love from them, especially whenever they need these things, Or maybe even you calling them too emotional or sensitive, or you giving them a hard time when really they're trying their very, very best. Well, then they will most likely feel undervalued and unappreciated and quite low, honestly. And they'll probably resent you or express distaste towards you for contributing to these feelings of unworthiness. And this brings me back to the original point about how they aren't the best at expressing their needs, because what is vital when it comes to getting these crabs to open up is support. It's about listening to them, it's about showing gratitude towards them, it's about thinking about them when you're out and about, considering their input, being that person who really supports them, just like they support others. So if they feel like they are being put down, it really can feel like a major blow to their ego, and then they are less likely to share how they feel or share what they need. In fact, they will most likely retreat and clam up if or when they feel attacked. And oh my gosh, if their love is ever rejected, so this love could be towards a spouse or a parent or a child or a partner, whoever it's directed towards, if their love is rejected, it will pain them. It will really, really hurt them greatly, more than they let on. It will feel like that person who just hurt them has taken a dagger and stabbed them right in the heart. Yeah, a Cancer Sun's love is not to be toyed with or underestimated, because when they love hard. Trust me, you will know as well if a Cancer Sun person loves you, because they will most likely be very cuddly and affectionate, or they'll buy you food, or they will make time for you throughout the day. They will also check in with you to see how you're keeping, how you're feeling, or they'll invite you over for dinner or to hang out. Basically, they will show you how much they care. Yeah, so I realized that I've been talking about you, Cancer Suns, for a little while and not to you. So let's put you back in the spotlight, which, to be fair, you're probably completely fine with not being the center of attention. Especially if doing so is a threat. And in this respect, you're typically the type of person who prefers to suss situations and people out before initiating or acting on things, and usually your intuition towards others is pretty spot on. You normally do get hunches about other people's character and about their intentions, even if others aren't necessarily aware of these things themselves. Therefore, you might pick up on other people's hidden selves, their shadow selves, very similar to Scorpio and Pisces. But at the same time, you're generally quite empathetic and compassionate towards others, even towards other people's flaws and their shortcomings. And you can be quite forgiving and understanding in this respect. However, when someone does cross the line with you, you can hold on to that attack or mistake for a very long time. Yeah, you sure know how to hold a grudge. Like I said earlier, you never forget how another person or how a situation made you feel. Okay, so now I want to move on to your relationship with your father or with a father figure in your life. And there's a likelihood of you growing up with a father who was caring and nurturing and really thoughtful and considerate, a father figure in your life who strived to support you and your family, but at the same time, maybe this father influence was quite moody and temperamental. Perhaps he had a temper, or maybe he lacked patience, or maybe he didn't feel like his needs were met by his own family or even by your mother. Then again, maybe your father was pretty easygoing, pretty laid back, but was often pushed by other family members, resulting in him acting defensive and protective, or resulting in him being passive aggressive even. Perhaps your mother or a mother figure would often get in the way of how your father raised you. So perhaps she would act overly protective of you, or she would be fearful of your father's care and support. But then on the other hand, if this father figure was absent from your life, either due to a divorce or a death or a distance or work, then maybe this placed your mother into the primary caregiver role or into the only caregiver role. And so from this mother influence raising you, you grew up more accustomed to the world of emotions and feelings. You grew up more aware of your mother's needs over your father's needs, or maybe your mother's needs over your own needs possibly. Or maybe you grew up with a more conscious understanding of how the feminine behaves, how the feminine energy acts and creates. In fact, there is a suggestion here of you Cancer Sun males, or maybe more of you masculine types, being drawn towards lovers who emulate your mother's behaviors. But then similarly, there's a suggestion of you Cancer Sun females, or more feminine types, being drawn towards lovers who emulate your father's behaviors. So that's just some food for thought there. Still, however, there's also a likelihood of you behaving in a similar fashion to your mother or your father, or perhaps both simultaneously or at different times. For example, maybe you're told you have your father's temperament, or you answered that question just like your mother did, or that's exactly how your father would talk. And these things may also extend to your grandparents if you grew up with any. Essentially, there seems to be a pretty strong connection that you have towards your family, Cancer Sun individuals. And if you go on to create a family of your own one day, you will most likely instill strong family values and strong family traditions onto them. So you will be very concerned towards and focused on your children, for example, if you do choose to have any, or you will be incredibly protective of your children and your spouse. Basically, you will most likely embrace their responsibilities as a parent. And if you don't embrace the responsibilities of being a parent whilst being a parent, most likely there's a significant reason for this. However, with the same token, this protectiveness and this support goes towards your friends and your work colleagues and your clients. Now, whilst the love towards such people may differ in comparison to children or to your spouse, for example, you still make an effort to show that you care about these specific relationships. So you will be an attentive team player at work, for example, or you'll take the time to consider a client's needs, or you'll be that friend who gets a round of drinks in, because these are your people and they matter to you and you want to show that you care. Also, you're probably very good at separating compassion and emotional support from romantic love and sexual feelings. In fact, you might take much pride in showing your loyalty and your devotion towards another. Again, though, this is not to suggest that all you Cancerians are loyal, but when you do feel secure within your relationships, when you feel loved, when you feel appreciated, when you feel safe, you will be less likely to jeopardize what you have with somebody else. And this can also extend towards your friendships and towards your business relationships as well. So for example, you'll not badmouth a friend behind their back, or you'll be upfront and honest with your friends, or you'll be fair and respectful towards your bosses and your managers, or you will cover a work shift, so a colleague's work shift, because they've got family matters to attend to. Essentially, that nurturing and motherly energy radiates out of you, Cancer Suns, and it touches those around you. But in order for others to get the best of you, you need to feel safe and protected and supported. And can I also say, you are typically great when it comes to business. Very good at meeting bosses' requirements, great at empathizing with customers, amazing at providing your insights on the job. But then on the other hand, you can also take things quite personally and to heart. Your feelings can often get hurt even if others don't intend to hurt them. Now, whilst it's good for others to empathize with your emotions and your feelings, at the same time, it's often how you react that can come across as quite selfish and as me-focused at times. So for example, maybe a lover or a friend, they express how they feel about something. But then you turn around and you make that situation about yourself. Though on the other hand, there can also be times when you retreat without expressing your feelings. And it's during these times that you process your feelings. But what's important to keep in mind is the communication afterwards rather than sweeping things under the rug. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about for you Cancer Suns is to do with creativity and just how much you care about your creative hobbies and projects and passions. Seriously, when you have a creative project that you're attending towards, you make sure to really nurture whatever it is. So you'll take the time to research all the things that that project requires, for example, or you will be open and receptive to new ideas and options, or you'll show support to other creators within the same field or area. Essentially, you'll feed and water that creative project. Now, some astrologers do like to look at the Ascendant in connection with the life path, and then the Sun in connection with the person that we are striving to become. And so in your case, Cancer Sun individuals, perhaps you are striving to become this supportive and nurturing and caregiving individual. Now, before we do move on to the moon, make sure that you do locate the house placement of the Sun, because this is going to show you the area of life that this energy is playing out in. And also remember aspects, because aspects can show you any difficulties that may arise along with other energies that may influence that Sun energy. Okay, so moving on to the moon in Cancer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some keywords associated with the moon in astrology. Read those keywords, take them in. But what does it mean if these keywords are being combined with the sign or with the archetype of Cancer? Well, it creates an energy of fluctuating emotional cycles and of a soft and warm emotional support system. Also, it creates an energy of unconscious moodiness, sensitivities, and protectiveness, along with an energy of insightful, nurturing, and supportive caregiving. Likewise, it creates an energy of natural instinct and natural psychic abilities, as well as an energy of feeling strongly connected to family and home. But what does this specifically say about you if you were born under this moon sign, meaning that you have the moon in Cancer natally? Well, it suggests that within your family home growing up, there was much emphasis placed on family and heritage and culture and your ancestry. For example, maybe your family was taught to respect tradition, or maybe you were taught all about your family tree by your parents, or maybe your parents would often talk to you about their history and about the past. And quite possibly you were encouraged to follow the way things had always been done. So let's say your mother had a really excellent cooking recipe. Perhaps you learned how to cook this recipe as well. And so later on in your life, you realize you still cook that same recipe. Maybe you even wish to pass it on to your own family, onto your own children one day. Or let's say your father fought in the war. Maybe you admire him greatly for his bravery and for his courage, And so you decide later on in your life, you know what, I'm going to join the military. Or even let's say your mother or your father wore a certain style of clothing. Maybe you somehow managed to imitate his or her fashion sense as an adult. But then let's say also perhaps you grew up in a culture where there were certain social behaviors that everyone reenacted. Maybe you go on to act in accordance with such behaviors yourself. Essentially, we are noticing some pretty strong ties with your family and with your ancestors and with the past. And even if you're a Cancer moon individual who goes on to forge your own unique path, as you create your own traditions and your own habits, there's still a likelihood of you feeling this connection with what was. You can be deeply nostalgic and sentimental in this respect. In fact, it's suggested that you find it quite difficult to let go of the past, especially past situations that have left an imprint on your heart. Likewise, you may find it challenging to let go of past relationships or of past attacks that have left you feeling quite hurt also. After all, these are your emotions coming into play. And this right here, I think, is a difference between the sun and the moon in Cancer, in that the moon in Cancer is more likely to cling and hold on, even if above the surface they try to keep things together. Though, to be honest, you'll most likely know if something is genuinely bothering them. Looking at some examples still, maybe you recently ended a relationship, and so you'll most likely shed those tears. You'll get angry, you'll get upset, you'll get emotional, you'll do all that emotional releasing. It's very beneficial. But then fast forward to 2 years later, you might bring that person up in conversation where you say something like, that person was such an a-hole, screw them. All whilst kind of making it seem like, I'm over them, it's in the past. Or another example, maybe you still have ex-partners' numbers, ex-friends' numbers, or maybe you have them still on Facebook. But then let's take one more example here. Can't you tell that I'm loving the examples today? Let's say that you meet a new friend in work and you become quite close with them. Maybe this work colleague is very attentive and understanding and considerate. Well, then you as a Cancer moon individual, maybe you're more likely to sing that person's good graces. They probably will be there within your mind forever. You won't forget basically about all the nice things that person did to help and support you. Heck, you could be 60 years old and still talking about that woman who made you a cup of tea in the office. How kind of them. Which, following on from this point, you Cancer moons most likely have great memories. You are great at remembering things from the past that many people are, well, not very good at remembering. I have a bad memory, by the way. I'm talking experiences from the age of 5 or early experiences like that one time in gym class when a kid pushed in front of you to be first. Oh my gosh, whoever that kid was, they will forever remain as that idiot who thought it was okay to push you. Well, pushed in front of you. And come to think of it, you're probably quite quick to know whether or not you like or dislike a certain characteristic of someone. Same thing could be said about a certain food item or a clothing item. See, it's you who is pretty much tapped into your emotions. And so the thing about our emotions is that they send signals and messages throughout our body. So if you feel uncomfortable or uneasy or pissed off or grossed out, it's like, okay, no, I I don't like that, or I'm not really feeling this right now. But then if you feel good and safe and comfortable and more easygoing, it's like, yes, this is okay. I can work with this. I'm quite feeling this right now, actually. And come to think of it, you might not even have to try something or taste something in order to know if something sits well with you or not. Though on the other hand, there can be times whenever you stay very much within your comfort zone, which naturally can be a contributing factor to what I've been talking about, which, following on from this point, you might play it safe more than the Cancer Suns would, because I think in your case, you're more protective and you're more security orientated. And perhaps you're more in tune with how you've always naturally done things. So for example, you might buy the same cookie brand for as long as it exists, or you might visit the same coffee shop because that's the same coffee shop that you and your mother visited together growing up. Yeah, you're probably quite a traditional person and you're good with that. So perhaps whilst Cancer Suns are more willing to create new traditions with aliveness and more enthusiasm, still with a little bit of caution, alright? Still with some caution. Maybe you Cancer Moons prefer to hold on to older traditions whilst you slowly suss out new ones. You sort of feel things out to see if a new recipe or a new style or a new holiday destination suits your needs. Though speaking of needs, you're probably quite up to speed with your personal needs. You're very much in tune with what they are. So if you feel like, I really need to rest right now, you will most likely respect that feeling. Sure, it might not be the time or the place, but there's that inner knowing there. Or if you feel like, I'm so hungry right now, I need food. Again, same thing. In fact, you're probably quite good at respecting and acknowledging your needs and your emotions. Now, you're most likely good at catering towards other people's needs as well, but I think you're not as needing of applause and attention and recognition for doing so in comparison to the Cancer Suns. And I think you're more likely to say, I need time for myself when you do. See, the moon isn't really concerned with attention or being in the spotlight. It's a much more personal, private part of ourselves. So when you need to step back, for example, I think you will. However, this is not to say that you don't worry or stress about other people when you do, or just in general. In fact, I think you can feel upset when you're not meeting your own expectations of being a caregiver or of being that motherly figure. And seeing as I mentioned being a mother figure, you're probably a natural. Now, this can be quite obviously towards children that you give birth to, or towards children that you grew up with, or towards children that you look after. But these motherly qualities may also be directed towards a parent or a spouse, or towards a colleague or a sibling. Likewise, these natural nurturing skills and talents may be directed towards a pet, or towards a plant, or towards books and crystals. Even be towards the likes of cooking, cleaning, or towards your home just overall. Basically, there's this, what feels like effortless gift you have when it comes to caretaking and minding and nurturing. And in this respect, you are probably extremely supportive towards those you love, especially towards your family, especially towards your friends. In fact, there's a suggestion here that family comes first in your eyes. So you're probably more than willing to drop what you're doing in the middle of the day if it means supporting a family member in need. Perhaps you actually picked up these qualities from your own mother growing up, or from your own family growing up. Maybe your mother taught you about the importance of building a strong home life foundation, or maybe she taught you how to care for your needs, how to support yourself whilst also being concerned for the needs of the family and for the needs of your loved ones. Or maybe many of you Cancer moons consider your mother or a mother figure, could be a mother figure, to be affectionate and caring and loving, this person who made you feel safe and protected. And so therefore you possess many fond memories with this influence, with this mother influence. Though on the other hand, maybe there were times when this mother influence was quick to react. Maybe she was quite moody and would be led strongly by her emotional fluctuations, and perhaps she was quite protective of you and your family. And even though there were times whenever she would flip out, you still can empathize with her past reactions. And even though you and your mother have had your ups and downs, you'll still be able to feel love and acceptance towards her. However, of course, I do understand that for some of you, maybe this mother figure was more than irrational and possibly even emotionally manipulative, as she would play the victim. And so in these cases, maybe you don't empathize with her or feel compassion towards her. But whichever way this may have played out, there still seems to be an attachment to this mother influence who played quite a prominent, significant role within your life. Perhaps for some of you, you go on to parent your own children in a similar fashion to how your mother parented you. Or perhaps for others of you, you think, no, I'm never having children because of how you were parented by your mother. Though whether this parenting style be healthy, I think it really depends on you as an individual. In fact, there may be some of you Cancer moons out there who consider your mother or a mother figure to be your best friend, or to have been your best friend. Maybe your connection is or was that strong. And I think that this is another difference between the Cancer suns and Cancer moons, in that I think you Cancer moons possess a strong emotional attachment to not only your mother, but to your family and to your home and your childhood. As I said earlier, you're such sentimental and nostalgic people. And if others dare attack your family or your loved ones, if they get on the wrong side of them, you will most likely react and defend quite quickly. Even if your reactions don't make sense or if they are completely irrational, you can't help but give into that impulse. It's as if you can turn into this mama bear who is defending her cubs. And just like I said a moment ago as well, you are natural caregivers, a natural mother figures, and so there's this unconscious part of you Cancer moons that can't help but be supportive and slightly territorial at times too. So that nosy neighbor who asks inappropriate questions, you will most likely let them know how you feel about it. Or that stranger who ignorantly comments on your husband's job or weight, phew, I would not like to be there. Basically, I think you have very little tolerance and patience for outside intruders, so to speak. But then also, in relation to the support that you offer others, I think you can make a great host in this respect. I think some of you really blossom when you have family or friends round for dinner or for a party, or you might feel emotionally satisfied when you have a person or an animal or a thing or a business to support. In fact, I think your emotional well-being depends on being that caregiving person. And oh my gosh, whenever you love, you can be so cuddly, so soft and warm and affectionate and kind. But in order to get to this part of you, you need to feel safe. You need to feel protected. You can be a tough egg, or should I say shell, to crack, Cancer moons. But once people are in, they're most likely in for life. They just need to consider your change in moods and sensitivities. It's a good idea for them to give you that emotional support, especially given that you are ever so great at supporting other people emotionally as well. Though the last thing that I really want to address is to do with your natural psychic abilities. You can be quite attuned with these things, and in this respect, you may just know when things are going to happen without necessarily knowing exactly how or why. And you can also get feelings about people and situations, which then help you navigate your own actions. Now, the same can be said when it comes to Cancer Suns and Cancer Risings. There's the psychic abilities that you tend to have. But I think in your case, Cancer Moons, these things can maybe be more natural to you without you even having to think about it, without you even realizing it. And you might also have these strong premonitions in your dreams. So I would recommend keeping a note of your dreams, tracking them, and also tracking those psychic pings that you get. Really just try paying attention to them to see what patterns and cycles come up, because who knows? Maybe by doing so, you'll discover something fascinating. Now, before we do move on to the rising sign / the ascendant, make sure that you locate the house placement of the moon, because this is going to show you the area of life that this energy is playing out in. Also remember aspects, because aspects can show you any difficulties that may arise, along with other energies that may influence that moon energy. Alright, so moving on to the Cancer rising / the Cancer ascendant. What I'm going to do is show you some keywords associated with the rising sign / the ascendant within astrology. Read those keywords, take them in. But what does it mean if these keywords are being combined with the sign or with the archetype of Cancer? Well, it creates an energy of an emotional and feelings-based life path, and of a caring yet moody demeanor. Likewise, it creates an energy of a motherly, supportive and comforting self-identity, along with an energy of soft and rounded physical features. Plus, it creates an energy of fluctuating energy levels and of protective body movements. But what does this specifically say about you if you were born under this rising sign / ascendant, meaning that you have a Cancer rising or a Cancer ascendant natally? Well, it suggests that you see the world through this lens of security, protection and safety, as well as through a lens of belonging, needs, home and family. So you might approach new, unknown situations in quite a cautious way, for example, or you might show concern towards the people around you, especially towards your loved ones, or you might be up to speed with the needs of others along with the needs of yourself. Now, it may be that you're not necessarily aware of these things. It's more so that you intuitively and you naturally feel when something is off or when someone needs support, for example. But it's you who picks up on those little nuances, Cancer risings. In fact, it's probably you who steps into the caregiving role without having to think about it. So you might be the allocated driver on a night out whilst all your friends are drinking and getting drunk, or you might offer to help a friend with their homework, or maybe members of the public find you easy to open up with, or maybe it's you who hosts parties and events at your house. Yeah, you can't help but spring into action as you play the caregiver. However, this is not to say that you act this way towards everyone. I mean, you most likely get bored really fast when customer after customer is sharing their life story with you at work. Still though, you typically suss people out before you start attending to their needs or before you start bringing them close into your social circle. After all, you are protective. You're very protective of your energy, and feeling secure around others is very important to you. So you might take your time as you try to get to know someone new, for example, and then in this respect, you probably prefer to build on something stable and secure and long lasting. And then the more familiar this person becomes, the greater the role they play in your life, then the more likely you are to share and open up and let them in. Yeah, you're not an open book, that's for sure, and you're also quite familiar with what's private And so if people try to infringe on your privacy, you might be quick to retreat or react. But whenever you do become close with somebody else, whenever you've established that trust and that security and that familiarity, especially if it gets to a point where they become family or they feel like family, well, then that's it. They're in. They've been welcomed into your crab shell, so to speak, your home. And it's unlikely that you're going to let them go, unless, of course, something terrible happens, such as a betrayal of trust or a disagreement that goes too far. Though following on from this point, you're probably not the best at handling disagreements and conflicts. I think this is partly because of how emotionally stressed you can become, and also because of how easily wound up you can become. And likewise, just like I said about Cancer suns and Cancer moons, you can take things quite personally and to heart, though on the other hand, maybe you don't necessarily see it that way. Perhaps for you, you strongly identify with your emotions and how you feel, and so you look at your emotions and your feelings as important contributing factors when confronted with an uneasy situation, for example. However, the thing to keep in mind is how you react. See, for some of you, maybe you react by retreating and getting away from the situation. Or for others of you, maybe you shield yourself whilst you make it very clear from your body language that I am not dealing with this today. Or perhaps there's those of you who throw a fit and become super flustered and red in the face. Then again, maybe there's others of you who do sit within the confrontation, but instead of being direct, you act very passive-aggressive. Or, you know what, maybe you Cancer risings, you fluctuate between all of these examples, really depending on the situation. But it's these reactions that are apparent. And you most likely find your emotional reactions really difficult to hide or control. In fact, it's suggested that your emotions are just written all over your face, or you can just pick up on them from your body language. Now, with that being said, also keep in mind the position of the moon in your chart, because the moon is your chart ruler, and the placement of the moon can provide more information as to what I'm saying here. The moon can show you how and where your emotional reactions play out, can also show you how and where you seek security and safety, especially emotional security. Likewise, it can show you how and where you step into that caregiving, motherly role, amongst other things, of course. Still though, when it comes to handling conflict, it's not your strong suit, and you typically don't have time for it. But showing support and being kind and being caring and being thoughtful and concerned for the needs of others, you have a natural gift. Though in addition, you might have learned how to act this way due to your upbringing. So perhaps you learn from your family the importance of coming together, of the importance of making a home feel like a home, or of the importance of being considerate and cooperative and relationship orientated towards those that you care about and you love. However, you might have also learned how to be passive aggressive instead of directly asking for what you want or need. You might have also learned how to avoid conflict rather than confronting conflict. Maybe your parents or your family members, they would put on a false smile, for example, all as a way to keep up appearances. Perhaps keeping the peace and being harmonious was expected, and so then you go on to reenact these unconscious drives within your own relationships and friendships, whilst being hyper aware and hypercritical of your own attitudes and choice of wording at times. And if this is the case, perhaps for some of you Cancer risings, you struggle with anxiety or with continuous worrying, or maybe for others of you, you actually find it challenging to regulate your own emotions due to your inability of expressing your authentic emotions. Or perhaps there's some of you Cancer risings who feel fearful and rigid when approaching relationships and friendships. Or maybe there's a part of you that's subconsciously trying to find the balance, leading to the likes of awkwardness and worry and restriction between you and other people. However, I do think that as you grow and you mature, you start to feel more comfortable in who you are, and you become more childlike and carefree about your own authenticity. And I also think a contributing factor to all of this is really to do with learning and education. So learning about things that you like, or educating yourself on subject matters that resonate with you, or becoming familiar with authors and researchers and actors and comedians that speak your language, so to speak. Basically, the more you engage with your inner world, the more comfortable you feel engaging with the outer world, with your outer world. And the more confident and self-assured and lively you feel as well. And so by stepping into such qualities, I think you also learn how to assert yourself and stand up for yourself more effectively. So instead of falling apart when confronted with a difficult task or situation or conflict or decision that feels just far too overwhelming to manage, you actually start to address whatever it is more head on, with dignity and with loyalty towards yourself. The quick side note, also make sure that you're locating the position of Mars within your chart for more insight into things like anger and self-assertion and handling conflict, because the placement of Mars can add to the story quite significantly. Likewise, look at the placement of Mars when considering your energy levels. And this actually leads me on to your energy levels because, well, they can fluctuate, they can change, especially depending on your mood. You are strongly ruled by your moods, Cancer risings. You are directed by your moods, and it's your moods that push you forward in a way. So if you don't feel like going to the party or to the meetup or on a run, your energy will most likely just match that feeling. Now, that's not to say that you won't go, but you'll still know, oh, my energy just feels off today. And the same thing can be said when you do feel like working out or going out or baking a cake. Your energy levels will match that feeling. Again, though, remember to locate Mars, because the position of Mars can tell a completely different story to what I'm saying, but it can possibly even add to the story. Now, some astrologers do like to refer to the rising sign as representative of our life path, and then the sun sign as the person in which we are striving to become. And so therefore, make sure you are locating your sun sign for more information there, and also make sure to look at the other 11 houses throughout the chart. But when it comes to that life path, I think a part of your life path is associated with trusting in your own intuition and then aligning your actions in accordance with your intuition. However, this process can be quite tricky and it's not so straightforward, especially given that your emotions play a huge contributing factor within your life, Cancer risings. So sure, you might feel a certain emotion come up and then you feel called to action, for example, but is that action what your intuition is telling you to do? It could be. But then again, it might not be. Maybe growing up, you learn how to actually silence your intuition, how to quiet your inner voice, perhaps due to outside stimuli, or maybe you simply weren't taught how to go within and listen really closely. Perhaps when you're in solitude, things do seem more clear, but the moment you're out there tackling the world, there's more second guessing and there's restlessness where you feel undirected and scattered at times. And I suppose this is why it's good for you to step away from time to time. Maybe by chilling and listening to music, that can really help center you, or maybe reading a good book can help, or maybe even spending some time with your family is good for the soul, good for your mental clarity, provided that your family life feels like your safe space where there's comfort and support there. Though I suppose that this leads me on to the last thing that I want to mention when it comes to you Cancer risings, and that's to do with belonging in association with your life path as well. And like I said at the beginning, you maybe see the world through this lens of belonging. See, I think that it's you who craves belonging. You strive to feel a great deal of belonging within the world. So from your friendships, to your romantic relationships, to your children, to your online communities, to your work colleagues, you basically seek to feel as if you belong within such areas with such people. And so you'll seek out valuable, reliable friendships, for example, or you'll seek out long-term committed partnerships, and you'll seek out secure and financially prosperous jobs and career paths. However, it's also along your quest that you'll find out where you don't belong. So maybe you'll suss out the friends who simply are not for you, the communities where you simply just don't feel like you resonate with, or those partners who you don't feel safe and secure with. Or maybe you'll suss out which career paths align with your personal goals and your individual requirements. And if you need to pursue a different career to support your family, if you choose to have a family, you'll most likely do that. Essentially, it's you Cancer risings who are setting out on this journey in order to find that place that you call home. Okay then, Cosmic Warriors, so that concludes my really long video all about the differences between the Cancer Sun, the Cancer Moon, and the Cancer Rising. Now, if you do happen to have any thoughts and opinions on today's video, then certainly feel free to let us know what you thought in the comment section down below. I would like to know your feedback and your opinions. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And of course, if you would like to see more videos from myself and you have not yet subscribed, then make sure that you click that subscribe button, and also make sure that you give this video a like, remember. And I will be back with another video very, very soon. Bye!